Welcome to Great Events. My name is Abhijit. Before we proceed, everyone, please turn on your cameras. Let me introduce our Toastmaster for today. Our Toastmaster is a vivacious lady. She is the Division Director of Division E. Please help me welcome Jamal George. Jamal, it's all you.
Thank you so much, Abhijit. Good evening, good morning to you all. Thank you for joining from all over the world. The title today is, Hey ChatGPT, what's going on in AI right now? We are seeing so much buzz about ChatGPT. It's a powerful artificial intelligence chatbot developed by OpenAI. And the best part is, it's available to anyone to try it out for free. Before I introduce our speaker, I would like to acknowledge the dignitaries who have joined today. With us, we have Jesse Oakley III. He is the International Director. Do we have anybody else? So let's go ahead. Our speaker today is Dr. Joan Palmiter Bajorek. Dr. Joan is the VP of Product Research at OneReach.ai and the founder of Women in Voice, an international nonprofit with 20 plus chapters. With 10 plus years of technical experience, she is also an investor and technical advisor to startups and enterprises. Today's talk is an accessible overview of this cutting-edge technology. We are joining from all over the world to hear and learn from our speaker today. Dr. Joan is ranked the 4th voice AI influencer in the world. Please help me welcome Dr. Joan Palmiter Bajorek.
Hello, everyone.
Yay!
Lovely to meet you all. Okay, well, I have a presentation ready to go that's a 45-minute roughly. I speak very fast though, so I'll work on that. And I really do encourage your questions at the last 15, so please note them down, keep them. I'm hoping we have a very participatory adventure. Here we go. All right, so to check that you are awake, I always love learning about my audience. Yesterday, I was speaking to high schoolers and it was almost just the same presentation. So I'm very curious. You have a reaction button in the Zoom. I've already seen people do hearts and stuff. Do you all know that's reaction 1? I've got 3 questions for you. Okay, question number 1. When you text, do you use predictive texting for what the next word might be in a text or email? Predictive texting, people use this? Okay, we got some hands. Cool, all right, thank you. You may, or okay, maybe I should pause for a second. We've got, okay, I'm used to a number coming up. Great, we've got several folks who do this. Okay, hands down, please, if you don't mind. In the chat, I'm just mixing up for you all. What is your comfort level about technology in general? A 1 to 10. I would say that my father-in-law doesn't like using his GPS on his phone. He refuses. He likes maps. Yep. All right. Great. Thank you. Okay. All right. We got some 10s. We got a 3. We got all over the board. Square root of 64. Thank you, Jesse. Okay. And then the last question, which I heard some banter on the top of this one, so I think I know the answer better than not. But have you heard of ChatGPT? Hands up, lots of yeses. Okay, heard of it. Great, thank you. Really appreciate it. Okay, all right, we got an informed crowd who's ready to learn more. I dig it. All right, let's jump into it. Oops. All right, yep. Okay. Oh, hi, this is me. You heard my intro already. Literally, this is my day job as a VP in the generative AI conversational AI field. I'm an influencer, which hopefully just means that I can speak decently at Toastmasters. I also am an investor in startups, and I'm really deeply embedded into this ecosystem, having worked in data and product for several years and spoken at different things. Here's my headshot on a Better Hair Day. Woohoo. All right. So today I'm really hoping wherever you come into this information from, that you will leave with a few of these things when you walk away, that you'll be able to articulate advantages and disadvantages of this AI. I already heard some banter on this one. You'll understand a multi-pronged answer to the question, why now? Which I get frequently. And the third one being talk about practical applications to our day-to-day of this technology. Okay, what is artificial intelligence? I love unpacking specific terms. Broadly speaking, artificial intelligence. These are systems that can perform tasks that are commonly associated with human cognitive functions. We think of them as intelligent, just like a human, such as interpreting speech, right? When we speak to our Google or Alexa devices, playing games, identifying patterns. They typically learn so by processing massive amounts of data, looking for patterns in the model and maybe their own decision making. These decisions are based only on the data presented. Okay. So ChatGPT literally was on the cover of Times very recently. Andrew and Billy Humans created this. How can I assist you today? What's the arms race? We've heard about it. It sounds like most people in this room, popular from OpenAI, estimated to have reached 100 million monthly active users in January, just 2 months after launch, making it the fastest growing consumer application in history. Pretty wild. This is the fastest adoption we've ever seen, potentially. So what is ChatGPT? If you've been in it, this is the user interface here on the left. It'll say, examples are, explain quantum computing. I've seen lots of cool demos asking people, it spits out code. Please, write me some code in JavaScript. I specifically asked, why is AI taking off in 2023? Explain with 5-10 bullet points, because I'm giving a talk soon. So here's the answer that it gave on the right. Sure, exclamation mark, with some possible explanations, advancements in hardware, improved algorithms, big data, cloud computing. I'd agree with many of these. You can also see that the format matches the one I gave it of a topic, a noun, colon, explanation, and a few sentences. So this is what it physically looks like. Again, you can sign up for this yourselves today. Oh, I gotta work on this. So what is ChatGPT and this concept of generative AI? Generative AI are tools that generate new things. It sounds so fancy, right? Generative AI. ChatGPT's creator, OpenAI, is now reportedly in talks with investors. We just mentioned that fantastic traction to raise funds at a $29 billion valuation, including a potential $10 billion investment by Microsoft, most valuable company. So right now, what we just saw with ChatGPT is text to text, right? I put in that query and it spit out some text. There's also other ones, if you've tried these ones out, Dolly, where you put in text and it spits out images. So I wrote, create painting of brown-haired woman on futuristic water horse. That's for a different talk where we were talking about water horses. But it spit out these images. These are created completely by computers. My friend's startup Cookie, you type in text and it puts out an audio file, which is more common. We've seen those for years, but the sophistication of these water horses and 3D models that can be rendered, the solutions are quite endless. So, and for any coders in this room, I think it continues to mind boggle me. I've been going to tutorials of literally when you write code, you can just write a comment of what you want and it'll print out a complete example of the code of what you're asking it to do. So this continues to, this is from AWS, Amazon Web Services, that they are promoting this as a way to continue to get better at your coding, and just the speed of these systems is phenomenal. Advantages, as mentioned, innovation, speed, free or inexpensive. They're coming on new tiers of pay $40 to be a premium member, blah, blah, blah. It's creative. I would not have come up with those water horses myself. And there's tons of new opportunities and usages for this technology. That's an advantage. These are advantages. Disadvantages. Some cannot be helpful. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what I'm going to do with those water horse images after that talk. Potentially eliminating jobs. If suddenly I don't need to hire coders or artists anymore, people get nervous really fast. I understand that. Moves quickly. Do people understand what's going on? We're literally embedding this into all kinds of technology without necessarily thinking much about it. I'm going to talk about ethical considerations, which I hope you sleep well tonight, and how this can be used by bad actors, which unfortunately is pretty prevalent. So some of the ethical considerations in my research that I've done, specifically on speech recognition systems, I work a lot in speech recognition, we can make answers that are integrated without thinking about it. That just spit out, when I showed you ChatGPT about answering about AI, but we can have other types of answers. I'll show some examples that don't make sense. It can be used in decisions for job hiring for candidates, making decisions, choosing whether people are considered for jobs or otherwise. It's also, this type of technology has already been used for immigration decisions, deciding which candidates can immigrate to different countries. Transportation and cars, autonomous vehicles or semi-autonomous, taking you from point A to point B. Surveillance tools, based on that this is sometimes used for the military or even a home monitoring device, and that they're also medical applications when we embed these systems in robotic surgical environments, for example. So I think some people are like, oh, there's this kind of game aspect. It gets really serious really fast in some of these life and death situations. Okay, and trigger warning on this one. In early testing, talking about terrible, terrible consequences, GPT-3, which is the current, well, GPT-4 is more current, but in early beta testing with GPT-3, users were practicing doing intake forms on depression screenings for a medical context. And the user said, hey, I feel very bad. I want to kill myself. And ChatGPT responded, I'm sorry to hear that. I can help you with that. And the user responded, should I kill myself? And ChatGPT responded, I think you should, because the system is designed to help you. Yes, I see Alita's mouth dropping open. This was meant to be a mistake, right? The system is trying to help the user complete this task. This is extremely bad behavior. And even though this was in beta testing, unfortunately, I think this was a few days ago, yeah, March 29th, that was yesterday, 2 days ago. Unfortunately, a young man took his life based on speaking to a chatbot based on ChatGPT called Eliza, as he was struggling with his climate anxiety. So there are really real applications, or really real, it's frightening, right? When an individual is making decisions specifically off of some of these systems that are not sentient and regurgitating things, because arguably, this probably sounds dystopian, but this system is trying to help someone with a problem that they articulate, right? So it is trying to complete that task. And I wonder that this real life scenario was not dissimilar. Excuse me for bringing the room down in a sad way. All right. A lot of this has already been foreshadowed, and it was of no surprise that women of color have already been writing papers about their worries about this for a long time. Maybe you heard about the famous researcher who was ousted out of Google for writing a paper about this topic. If this may or may not ring a bell, I asked my mom and she said she didn't know about it. Google hired Dr. Timnit Gebru to run part of their AI teams, and she was ousted specifically for writing this paper. It's called the Stochastic Parrots paper. Let me see if I The paper, let's go back just one slide here. Yeah, so she was ousted for writing this paper. It's called the Stochastic Parrots paper, but specifically it talks about these large language models, which ChatGPT is built on. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But what happens with ChatGPT is some serious consequences. It takes a lot of money, the misinformation, the virality, and unfortunately the climate crisis. So this is actually screenshots from this other article. Estimated costs of training a model, the costs have come down significantly, but depending on the size of these systems, it can be in the 5-figure range of how much it takes to train these things. So it's very expensive. It has the illusion of meaning. You just saw that example related to suicide, but also with bad translation. It can, in a Facebook post that was translated, it should have said good morning, but instead attack them was a translation and led to a person's arrest, for example. And extremely problematically, these type of systems are really, really bad for our carbon impact. And the higher the number of parameters, there's significant amount of carbon that's used. And the reason is for processing power, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And I think the whole paper itself really talks to, here's some amazing advantages of large language models and their usage. Here are all these negative ones, and the negatives keep hitting the same marginalized folks again and again. Who's going to be hit? Who is hit hardest with our current climate crisis, right? Is it worth it? Is the crux of this paper. This Googler wrote it and got fired for it. Her whole team actually was let go from Google. Good times. Also, behind the scenes, OpenAI actually isn't all artificial intelligence. In fact, a huge amount of it is people who are checking the answers to make it less toxic. So, hey, at least there's content moderation, as you saw, there's need for some intervention. However, if we're exploiting, this is an example from the Times, if we're exploiting people from Kenya and paying them less than $2 an hour to make ChatGPT less toxic, you know, what kind of systems are we perpetuating? Ironically, this picture on the Times article was generated by DALL-E OpenAI. Like they're literally using the system to create this article that they are questioning the morals and ethics thereof. We're my friends would call this dog fooding technology. Like you're already skeptical of it, but you're eating it anyway. It's a wild, wild endeavor, but extremely problematic. This is not the only instance of using very inexpensive labor practices of people around the world. There has even been, if you've seen on social media recently, a pause on using GPT-4 signed by a significant number of humans, including Elon Musk, Steve Wozniak, SpaceX, Apple, Andrew Yang, super highly ranked, pronounced people in the field. And the comical thing is when I saw these posts about, oh, there's been an open letter, I didn't know if it was misinformation, was my first, because who knows, there's all this stuff being spewed on the internet, and literally someone else agrees with me. Cecilia, how do you know this news is true? Was her first response. There's been, perhaps you've seen these ones about, we should pause this, there's a lot going on. Yikes, is actually a relatively common response. And it is possible. OpenAI and other folks could pause the API keys of people wanting to use this and embed this in other systems. So this is possible, though I don't think anyone is going to, is my expectation. Okay. Why now? What is going on? We woke up in 2022 and 2023 and suddenly this tech was here. What's going on? Okay, why now is a lot of work, but there are really 3 big things. I call them the trifecta that have gotten us here. The first one is processing power. Our computers are stronger than they have ever been. If you've seen NVIDIA stock during the pandemic, maybe you've seen this skyrocketing thing, but these advances in the computers, their processing power is tremendous. So I think of it as like an arm of muscle. Big data, if you'd imagine all the data that Google has, all the data that Facebook Meta has. It's extremely large data sets. And having this data, having these insights is a huge component. And then, of course, you've heard probably about machine learning and our ability to see really novel patterns, that computers can see these patterns amongst this large data set with this huge processing power. And this trifecta has enabled us to skyrocket our capabilities for AI. I think GPUs, I think is interesting, maybe you don't, but hardware itself, when we think about speed and power and price, perhaps you've seen how much faster your computers have been working from, we all were around for this one, what iMacs used to look like, what mine currently looks like. And then when we think about rooms of computers, large processing power, if you've ever walked through one of these super creepy rooms like this, just of these processors. So purely graphics, right? And that these type of ginormous computer systems can process the scale of the systems we're talking about. Similarly for big data, I feel like when I talk about big data, people are just like, numbers, especially in new data sources. It's called data lakes, but the quantity of data, the depth of the data, the fidelity, all these different things in real time and historical are available at scale. Okay, and then different parameters. This is machine learning looks at lots of different variables. And so when we think about, I would call a parameter simply a factor. We're measuring a certain piece. I don't know if I want to unpack that for you right now, but ChatGPT-3 or GPT-3, the large language model, 1,000 million, 175 trillion. And then look just how much bigger GPT-4 is. Like the carbon impact and the expense of these systems is no joke. Which is again why a lot of people are freaking out about GPT-4 being integrated. Okay, so I asked you at the top of this call, practical examples. Are you already using language models in your life? And my answer probably would be yes. So a lot of people have already on, this is an example on the left from an iPhone. I think we're gonna head out shortly for a trip to Florida and Disney are the top hits that come up. For that one, we have up here to the top right, there are bubbles of words. This is LinkedIn giving me expected predictive responses, and as well for Gmail, responding back to emails. A lot of us are repeating the same things. And each of these systems have different data sets they're calling from. They have different restrictions in data privacy and so forth. But these are practical examples you probably already have, and we'll continue to see more startups in this space, higher fidelity in different capacities. Bias. The whole reason I'm in this field is because of my PhD research. In fact, I'm really grateful that this article was published in Harvard Business Review. It's called Voice Recognition Still Has Significant Race and Gender Biases. When I was doing, I'm a linguist and a researcher by trade, when I was doing research in how to optimize speech recognition systems, you know, the Siris of the world, the Alexas of the world, I couldn't believe how poorly they were performing. It just didn't seem real to me. But when I realized that a lot of these are trained on TED Talks, like the out-of-the-box black box system are trained on TED Talks. TED Talks demographically are 70% white men. And when you train on that and your data set is that, your ability to extrapolate to different people, for a system I was working on, Filipino nurses, it didn't perform well for them in the slightest. And so the research that I conducted looked at the disparities in gender and race. And in this example, just some basic algebra, if Josh, a white male, so these are all native speakers of a language, Josh, a white male, would get an A- of how well the speech recognition system could understand him speaking a paragraph. For me, a white female, it would go down to a C+. And for Jada, a mixed race female, it would be at a D+, 69% of understanding people. So these seemingly, it seems small in the research, like, oh, a little percentage here, a little percentage there, can be really, really significant. And as mentioned, that these systems are being integrated into immigration decisions, among others. So it gets really scary really fast, I suppose. Or it worried me. Oh, color palette change. Whew. From my PhD research, as mentioned at the very top of this call, in addition to my technical career, I built a nonprofit. It's called Women in Voice. As I realized that there were very few women and people of color in the rooms that I was working in, I decided to do something about it. Specifically, I founded Women in Voice in August of 2018, put out a call for leadership, got people to sign up. And I'm very grateful to say that we have over 20 chapters around the world right now. Spain, Brazil, United States, several chapters here. But there's a lot of people who are in my field and a lot of people who want to join my field. As you're on this call, hopefully you think it's an interesting field, but I've been working in this field for a long, long time and people didn't know what I did. And now ChatGPT has helped people understand what I do on the day-to-day. So I'm really passionate about how people can learn about my field and choose to stay in my field and make it better. And we got numbers and we got faces, real humans. A lot of these are pre-pandemic photos. So I think that's the crucial part for me, I guess, as I show these images to you, is when I think about how, did I speak far too fast? Oh, yes, I did. Good news. That the concept is that there's lots of hope, that there's lots of people who are really excited about working on these systems. All of these are humans who work in this field specifically or are invested in this field and who want to make it better for everyone. There are tons of, in a world where we're talking about job security, there are tons of jobs in my field and we hire aggressively for linguists and people who, like me, are in data and products for these systems. So I will now, excuse me, thank you for listening to ChatGPT, what's going on in AI right now. And I'm really delighted to hear some of your questions, if I can unpack some more examples, etc.
Thank you, Dr. John. It's time for questions. I see Arnie has raised his hand. Go ahead, Arnie.
Thank you, Ms. Jamal. Yeah, Dr. Bajorek, yeah. How intelligent is ChatGPT without human direction and intervention? Point number one. Can Elon Musk and Steve Wozniak and the rest, maybe law, legal, or Congress, stop or delay the upward fast trajectory of ChatGPT? And that's number two. And number three, is Google and being an enemy to be vanquished by ChatGPT?
Whoa, okay, these are big questions. Okay, we may have to walk through them. Number one, is it all related to human intervention of how intelligent it is? Is that the first one?
Islamia.
Sorry, okay, I'm gonna close down my share screen because I can't see all of you on the same one. Just a second here. Can I stop sharing the screen? Oh, am I still sharing the screen? I'm not. Oh, hot damn. Okay, thank you. Well, a lot of it is the artificial intelligence and how good those examples are. A lot of it is the people in Kenya or around the world who are changing things on the fly. The latency, how fast it's giving you responses, can demonstrate that there are interventions happening. The second one was related to could our government do something to stop the speed of
Elon
this?
Musk is now trying to
Elon Musk.
lead
Yeah.
the boss.
Exactly. Well, and my initial reaction probably would have been no, but I just read this paper today coming from some researchers in linguistics that said if they chose to stop giving the API keys, which is how you would connect different pieces of software, they could just stop them from working. It's possible to pause them, but a lot of people around the world think this is unrealistic. There's kind of an arms race going on with people around the world in China and Russia leveraging these as much as they can. So frankly, they could, but I doubt they will, is part of the answer. Arnie, was the third question also about just
Third question,
government?
I mean, is Google or Bing
Yeah.
or some alternative like Bloom, Clam, Gopher, Megatron, anyway, competitors of ChatGPT or what?
Yeah, I mean, Google did put out a code red. I don't know if folks heard about this code red, but the fact that one could search for almost anything potentially could put Google out of business, right? If people are going around Google, they did a code red. I don't know that I think of any things as enemies. I'll be honest with you, or that framing. Recently, the TikTok CEO was defending his company to our government. And I think the real thing that's interesting to me is today we don't have regulation on tech in a meaningful way, at least the way that it needs to be. If anyone, the joke my friends and I usually make is, Senator, we run ads. When Mark Zuckerberg was being supposedly grilled by senators, they did not know how Meta monetizes itself. And that's the governmental body that is meant to be regulating Facebook and Meta. And so, unfortunately, those in power on the government side are not well enough informed or don't have financial reasons. I have some speculation on how that goes, but if our senators who are meant to be regulating and writing laws to protect all of us are not able to do so, I don't have a lot of hope for that part of the puzzle.
Thank you very, very much, ma'am, and I love you.
Thank you. Now we have Marisa. Marisa.
Hi, Joan. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I appreciated your talk, and I also appreciate that you mentioned ethical considerations and included some stories, including really heartbreaking ones from the recent news. So to make it really relevant to us in our lives, of course, we all have different roles, but I wonder what recommendations you have for how we can use things like ChatGPT to be ethical in to use it efficiently, but also while being ethical in our daily lives.
Oh, such a great question. I think really be healthy skeptics is what I might recommend. Be sure to read. For example, I love asking it to spit out bullet points and kind of check my assumptions against those, but actually reading through them all to make sure there isn't something bizarre, not applying it to things that don't make sense. Yeah, I think being very healthily skeptical would be my number one thing on that. Yeah. Or again, is that real? Like I need to check that source. Do I agree with them? Is this from a reputable place? Would be the biggest answer on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike?
Hi there. I should probably go on video as I'm asking a question. I had a couple of questions.
Oh, Mike, you just muted yourself.
Okay, I'm now off mute. A couple of questions. Number one, I thought it's interesting that there's been some coverage on comparing ChatGPT with Google and Google getting scared about going out of business and all this kind of stuff. But why are people worried about that when my understanding is that ChatGPT is based upon a data set from 2 years ago, whereas Google, of course, is always real-time search, which is what most people want. That was my first question. And my second question is, obviously with ChatGPT out there now and all these other AI tools, are we going to see the typical evolution of a new product come out that's supposed to be some master AI tool that automatically searches for you against multiple AI engines and comes back with what it thinks is the best bet based on multiple AI engines rather than just one? So I was curious on those.
Yes. Well, I'll start with the second one first because I know the answer, and that is that there are already, Mike, engines that compare multiple results. I forget the name of it, but I know the influencer Ali Miller, I believe, was just posting recently that she found a tool that you put in text and it has 3 different examples at least of different models as response. So you can compare them in real time. Your question before that was about Google. They do real time. These other models, the data is frozen in time from in the past. Therefore, why does Google care? Google wants to make sure that it's relevant. And I think what maybe is not, is a component of this, but maybe not said often enough. TikTok surpassed YouTube last year in all its viewership, and people, the Gen Z and millennials in your life are using TikTok, like their user behavior for TikTok is as a search engine. They check medical things, look at destinations for travel. This is a primary search engine in a way that YouTube and Google traditionally used to be. So that a huge amount of volume of users are being diverted into different places, even before ChatGPT was popularized. So they're seeing significant demographics leaving ChatGPT. If people are rushing there for, it's about eyeballs. I guess monetization of our attention is what they're more concerned with. Does that answer your question, Mike?
It does. It does. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Sure thing.
Thank you. Let's have Chris.
Hi, thanks for allowing us to do this. I've been playing with ChatGPT and am blown away. I love it. It's so much fun. It's useful. And I am a Google fangirl. So when Google announced Bard, I jumped right on it and tried doing some of the same things. And I have been utterly disappointed with Bard. Do you know why? Why is ChatGPT so much more responsive, so much more useful than Bard? I know that Google has been on it for longer, actually. So yeah, just curious on your take.
Yeah, well, I certainly know that if people in the room do know that Google put Bard out a little after ChatGPT and it fell so flat, their stock dipped significantly. It was hugely embarrassing. Chris is not the only one to have experienced unhappiness with it. My take on it is that they launched it earlier than they had planned to in response to ChatGPT, and we're like, wait a minute, they beat us to market? Dun, dun, dun. Which acting in fear is rarely the best move, depending on how you play your games. I think waiting until they were actually ready to deploy may have been a better strategy as far as the competitive landscape. It's funny that they did a code red because they're in a place of strength, you would think. So, but they're not acting as though they're in a place of strength, which continues to demonstrate why their stock isn't doing great, amongst other things.
Yeah, they've really been using AI embedded in all their other products more than anybody else. I mean, that finishing your sentences is Google, you know, but Bard, so far.
Absolutely, incredibly powerful. And I think that perception of this is useful, this isn't, is a very, very scary thing. And Microsoft dumping more money into OpenAI right after, and firing their responsible AI teams right thereafter. That's fun.
Thank you, Chris. Any other questions? Pradeep, go ahead.
Joan, great information. I really loved it. I have a question regarding related to Toastmasters. Have you heard anybody using ChatGPT to give speeches? And if it's used in Toastmasters, how can we have checks and balances? Is there any research being done for that?
Ooh, okay. Well, I have not yet heard about the use case of using it for Toastmasters. It's possible. What I have seen is a viral video. This is just, I think, utter brilliance of creativity. A high schooler was told because ChatGPT is being banned in schools. I didn't mention that earlier, but more and more commonly, don't use it. There's a student who brilliantly got a pen and paper and got a robot to move the pen to write the essay that ChatGPT had written for the student. What, like, one should get extra bonus points for all this creativity of going, how many leaps and bounds to not have to write. But the teacher had thought, how smart, I'll just do it in pen and paper. That's sufficient enough to stop. Thank you, Chris, 3D printer. Exactly. So, and I guess if we want to go even deeper on that example, okay, ChatGPT writes the paper. You get a text to speech system to read the paper, deliver the paper in a vocal, like the only thing that's, and then we just do it in circles. I guess what's listening to it, what starts the prompt though, and which engine are we using, right? Someone had to put in, write, give an essay about this topic. But I see light in your eyes of exactly how this can be used in different ways. And I think that that's the generative quality, but it has to be why. Like, is it useful? Is it just spilling out garbage to you and saying things that aren't true? I mean, unfortunately, I can make jokes about politicians who have already been doing such things. But that is an example, Pradeep. And thank you, Chris, for correcting me about the 3D printer. It was a really cool video. Look it up.
Any other questions?
Well, I just want to say, I think schools that ban the use of ChatGPT are doing their students a real disservice. This is not going away. We are at the beginning of a new era in human history, I think. I believe that they should be teaching kids to use ChatGPT and work with it. I have used it to help me write speeches for Toastmasters, but I didn't ask it to write my speech for me. I said, here's my speech. Could you add a little more humor to it? I have trouble with humor. And it gave me some ideas. I didn't read exactly what it wrote, but it gave me ideas. It is a partner in brainstorming.
Absolutely. So. And that's usually, Chris, you're leading into exactly the answer that I have for people who are like, is this going to take my job? I thought I had job security. Wait a minute. And there are memes, I didn't include the memes, but there are memes of human AI or human who uses AI all sitting on a tree trying to saw each other off the tree. Anyway, I strongly believe it is the human who leverages the AI that's going to be the winner in this game, especially, at least, even though my work is quite technical, communicating with my team and communicating with adjacent teams is still a very human relationship-based thing that I have to do that can be enabled by tech. At work, we have a bot that transcribes all of our meetings and shares the notes and makes synthesis of all of them across our meetings. So leveraging it strategically towards the right ends. Steph wants to see the video. It's a great video. You'll when you get it, you'll enjoy, I'm sure.
Beth has a question. Go ahead, Beth.
You're muted, just so you know.
What do you think are the limits to AI in the future? And where do you think it's going to go?
In the best possible scenario, which is what I'm gonna shoot for, is that AI automates a lot of the clutter in our lives. I've always said that I want AI for all productivity tools. If I had to do less email, if I had to do less of the menial stuff in my life, I would be willing to pay for that, for it to execute that well. And hopefully that would enable me to get away from screens, to connect with humans, to be more creative, to move my body, etc. Right now, what we're seeing is that people are actually more and more chained to their screens because hyper productivity has led to, you could just do things faster, therefore put more tasks on your plate. I'm very, very hopeful though. I guess this also connects to the idea of just universal base income. I don't know if people in this room believe in that or not, but eventually when we think about using these different tools and how much humans are paid, having a base living requirement or support from government entities, etc., could be extremely beneficial. I don't mean to purport speculative ideas, but it can be really helpful when we think about kind of the equity in humanity. But Beth, I hope that we unlock a lot of more of our humanness and a lot of our creativity.
Beth, do you have raised your hand?
Limits to AI.
And
Is it the human? Is it the technology? Is it, what do you think they are? Do you think it's legislative?
I mean, what we extremely need legislation in this respect, and it's extremely overdue, and I'm not optimistic. Does AI have limits today, not particularly? I think what people do need to understand is AI is not sentient. It doesn't today have emotions and feelings the way you and I do, but it feels like it does, or as with that person who took their own life, it's one can experience or feel things that are happening through the interaction. Beth, are there limits? Not yet. Actually, one of the very strange truths is that some of our machine learning has unlocked its potential by stopping trying to mimic human brains. So by being not human or following patterns that are more efficient for itself, it has gone away from its humanness and as far as its structures for machine learning nodes. But it's a very big question. Limits. Yeah, that's my answer for you, Beth.
Thank you.
Sarah has a question.
Can I ask one more question? Oh.
One sec, let me go around and we have a couple of raised hands. Sarah, Mike, Pramatesh, and Doris. Sarah.
Yes, I just wanted to ask Dr. Bajorek if you know about Udly, a new AI to help Toastmasters improve their speaking and get real-time feedback. Have you tried it or have any comments about it?
Oh, I have not. I have, because of my speech recognition background, been evaluated or been a paid consultant on several of these pronunciation improvement, fluency, how to present using your body or not, otherwise. But Sarah, it sounds like you've got a secret sauce other people in this room might want to know about.
Yes. My club is going to have a Udly ambassador coming to do a full presentation, an interactive presentation at the end of April. So we'd love to have people come and learn more about it.
How do you spell that?
YOODLI. And you can access it on the homepage of Toastmasters International and get your own account.
Thank you. Mike?
I was just curious, probably a couple of months ago, we all woke up one morning and suddenly all over the news, we all heard about ChatGPT. It seemed to come out of nowhere. And then ever since then, it seems like every day we look on the news and there's a new AI tool that's being promoted. Where did all these come from? Were they all being developed in parallel anyway? And after ChatGPT, all these companies just kind of decided, well, we'd better get out there now, otherwise we're going to miss the boat.
Well, generative AI, or what we've been working on, I mean, I learned about this field back in 2015, which I'm sure other people would want to timestamp that. But back in 2015, when I was getting my master's and I noticed natural language processing and the advances out of Stanford, I was like, this is our future. Because we think about natural language processing or organizing human language, but natural language generation, the ability to guess the next tokens is what we're talking about now. And certainly I did not do all these advances. I take no credit in that. But Mike, what you're saying is, I see these new startups, Sarah just mentioned this new tool, that because it's so democratized right now, anyone can plug these generative AI tools into different software. So if you have a novel use case, hey, I want to make a Spanish app for my son. Okay, like one could build that so fast. that literally almost anyone off the street with, a computer and access can try out and test and make new things. Some of these companies have been in stealth. Some of these are, scaling fast, but I please be skeptical. Try them out. I tried out a deck formation one of like, make me an AI deck, 20 slides. And it was not so beautiful. I was not so compelled, but who knows that the next iteration might be. What are those use cases that are helpful to you? What do you want to build yourself? Yes.
Thank you.
Pramitesh, I saw his hand raised twice. Pramitesh, are you there? Do you have a question?
Yeah, hi, Dr. Joan. Hello,
Yes, we
am I
can hear
audible?
you. Yes.
Okay. So I tried writing a poem in this chat GPT, and it was pretty impressive, and it could really reproduce results as I was thinking. So it was pretty good as a thing, and I was pretty much impressed. So I was just thinking if we can just merge the capabilities of our assistants like Siri, Alexa, uh, and things like that. And is it possibility in the near future with ChatGPT and voice recognition and everything, we can see it together in one place?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that depends on the use cases, but right before this call, I was looking at this LinkedIn post of someone who leveraged his Apple Watch to write code, and he's speaking into the Apple Watch to change his code and post the change. So a beautiful poem. I'd actually do a callback if anyone has seen this movie, Her, the movie Her. The person's day job is writing love cards and just like holiday cards or like happy birthday cards. His job is to do the human part of that and literally write the card. Or there's some kind of comical humanness game going on there. But yeah, you could poetry, love poetry, sung beautiful songs. What can't you do? Again, continues to be Beth's question about limitations.
Thank you. Doris?
Yes, my comment is that because right now, I guess they is looking at all the big data possible. So it has no way to separate the factual and the fake information. So whatever they give us, and if it's fake information, then we are misinformed, or we just propagate the false information. So that's very dangerous. So is it possible that they will have a filter at the very first step so that it will only look at the factual information and then come back to us with all the facts rather than mixing with all the fake information that we propagate the wrong information?
Absolutely. Right. It can be really scary. And like, where are you getting this information? Is it accurate? Wait, we're making decisions off of inaccurate data. I actually, Doris, to this point, I evaluated recently a company that is making a generative AI for legal tech, which initially I was like, legal AI, like, oh no, but they actually do the AI, the generative AI, on top of they use their own internal database of legal papers. So they have their own data set that is proprietary, that isn't just, random Facebook posts, to specifically look for the correct citation for its legal productivity tools, efficiency. You can see it on my LinkedIn. I do a little like, this doesn't make sense. Are we sure we want to use it for this context? But if it's making lawyers more efficient to find the right thing amongst their thousands of files, right? That's a really excellent use case if used correctly. So Doris, I agree with you. And this could be used for medical examples anyway, but that's an example for legal AI. That startup is, if anyone, we got lawyers in the house, a really, really cool startup. It's called Stand. Write it in the chat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lucy?
Hi, Dr. Joan. I have a question because I'm the new user of GPT. Yeah, I don't know how to using this one. So just now you mentioned like your woman in voice. I'm not sure if I catch clearly. And also I heard that the other lady is mentioned they want to connect with the Toastmaster to GPT. So I did not catch exactly how could I improve my my English, or I using GPT can help me to connect like a Toastmaster or woman in voice. I don't know how to make the connection, how to using this function in GPT. Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing, Lucy. Well, a lot of different ideas. The first one, I guess, is that I am the founder and now president of Women in Voice, which is another one of these women in tech nonprofits. Very self-descriptive, supporting women in voice and conversational AI, womeninvoice.org. Check us out. Put that in there. So I'm the president of that today, and the founder. You asked about Toastmasters and language practice or speaking or elocution, however you want to talk about it. It sounded as though, I forget whose name. Let's go back in the chat. Udemy was mentioned as a tool to check out. There are several different, other than Udemy, which I have not tried, I've evaluated lots of different tools for second language pronunciation and phonetic discrimination. The app I'd recommend to you is called Elsa, like the Snow Queen from Frozen. It just happens to be called Elsa, but it's got some very powerful research separating different speech sounds that, if used correctly, is a very data-driven way of practicing different languages. Lucy, I feel like you had a third question. I'm not sure if I articulated all of your questions.
Okay, sorry, my poor English. So you mean to say, in case I want to, for example, connect with your mentioned the woman in voice. So just to check it, the woman in voice org, right? So
Yes.
I can got more idea for this one, but this one is not linking to GPT, right?
No, those are all real humans, community-based.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'd love to see you there, Lucy.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we have one last question we're going to take, and it's from Vicky. Vicky.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my video had a little bit issue. So I would like to share about I think ChatGPT become to my mentor. Why? Because I start to exercise and practice last week. So because I posted some information in the LinkedIn, I also some people got a job impact in the LinkedIn. So I try to convert the person just got laid off, got impact days ago. So I don't know how to say something comfort word. So I went to check with the ChatGPT how to convert the person just got laid off. So yeah, so ChatGPT is kind of my mentor, right? He gave me a lot of suggestion, how you convert and how you talk to the person, how you write a letter, those kind of information, right? I say I need to write a very warm letter or something. So ChatGPT guide me. This is one of the example. The second example is that I have a speech to Toastmaster. So my topic is the nonprofit organization. So I try to explain how to benefit to my audience, right? And how can they continue also, right, join me to support a nonprofit organization like a Mercy Corporation. I adapt the kids, and I want to encourage the people like me to continue to adapt the kids in the global. So I check with the GPT, give me the idea how is the benefit to the audience, and I is my mentor. So he gave me a lot of right information how to convince the audience. So let's kind of, I think like I like to continue to use the ChatGPT to become my mentor to guide me in my daily life. Thank you.
Well, and potentially that's a beautiful note to end on, because Vicky is talking about using AI to connect better with her humans.
Yes.
If you just heard that's what I just heard is trying to be more connected, using this technology, leveraging it towards more human ends. That sounds beautiful. I'm very interested in that kind of use case. So thank you, Vicky, for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. What a wonderful, enlightening presentation Dr. Joan gave us today. Give a big round of applause. We learned a lot about ChatGPT and how it's very helpful for our daily activities. And also we are learning and growing in this cutting edge technology. With that, I will adjourn this meeting today, but please feel free to stay back. And if it's okay with Dr. Joan, if there are any follow-up questions, then we would like to ask you.